you're bored or stressed, just need a break. Grab a beer, some tequila, it's gonna be great. Come on, all my friends, it's the Tony Gallo Show.
Yo, 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 what's up to? Welcome to another episode of the Tony Gallo Show. My name is Tony. I am your host. This is my best friend and co-host, Sahaj.
Yo.
How you doing, man? We haven't done this in a minute. It's been a while since we podcasted. But here we are.
Yeah, what is it? Did we do 3 episodes this year, or did you say 5?
We did,
It's one of the two.
Well, it was like, we haven't done many episodes this year.
Damn.
So we started doing this back in 2022, and one thing I noticed that I didn't really like about myself is how inconsistent I have been. So we got to be a little more consistent, you know? Well, I got to be more consistent, kind of pushing the consistency train over here. So I recently started a project, another podcast with a couple more friends, and we are starting off with implementing video. This is the first time that we've done video here. First time we've done video. So how do you feel about the video?
I like it. I almost forget that it's there. I'm like looking down because I normally just look down, but I'm like, oh, there's a video being. But we did, when we first started, like one of your first ever episodes, we filmed it. Do you remember that? It's on YouTube.
Oh, we did?
Yeah, we did. It's on YouTube.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was when you interviewed me when you were living at the apartments in Swiss.
Yeah, so that's when I first started. So the history of this podcast, for those who are new and listening, I started doing the podcast in 2019. March 13, 2019, I think it was my first episode premiere.
Yeah.
Like the topics were like the Jonas Brothers, the Bachelorette, and just things that I like to watch and wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
And that was 2019. Those episodes, you won't be able to find them anywhere on any platform anymore unless you downloaded them, because I just kind of like did a kind of revamp of it, of the thing. And I was really on and off, kind of like I've been throughout this last kind of series. But in 2022, that's when I decided that, because at first I started with my friend Brian, and then I had my sister on for a bit, and then finally in 2022 I said, okay, I'm gonna do this with Sahaj, and here you are. We've been doing it together since 2022 now.
Yeah, and honestly, I think I'm the one that needs to be a little bit more consistent, because I think Tony's always up for doing it, but every time, the only day Tony and I have to do this is on Sunday, and working a ton during the week, overtime, whatever. Like Sundays are my days where I finally catch up on sleep. I take the day really slow. And I think I've even told Tony before, no fault to him, but it was more so like, I just don't want to have a routine on Sunday. I just want to do my own thing at my own time. But at the same time, I do have like the aspiration to help grow this thing. And so there needs to be a level of accountability. So I will also hop on that consistent train. And the thing is, Tony and I have kind of talked about it, figured out like, okay, like, you know, at this date and this time, this is when we're going to sit down and do the podcast.
But we haven't figured that out. We will after the recording of this episode.
Yeah.
We actually have to go through a calendar.
Oh, yeah. But remember we talked about like like at least do it like on Sundays at like Sundays 2 o'clock.
Sundays at 2 p.m.
Yeah, just schedule it.
That gives me time to kind of edit everything out and then put this up on Monday. Hopefully you're seeing this a day after Mother's Day. Yeah. You will be seeing this a day after Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day, by the way. I hope everyone had a good... Excuse me, dude. I had Mexican for lunch, and I'm so...
Happy Mother's Day, Mona. And Jesus.
That's my mom's name. Jesus and Mona for Sahaj.
Not Mona Lisa. Mona Shaw.
Mona Shaw. And I had, we went to church, and then I had a big Mexican meal. But thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us. And I hope you enjoy this like new video format thing. And I think, I don't know, I kind of find it more like if I watch a podcast, it seems to be more entertaining because I used to not really like care about the video stuff. I was like, I don't know that I want to do the video stuff, but now I'm like, I think the video stuff is a must if you want to kind of, sort of grow an audience.
Do you watch your? I watch one podcast and it's the Don't Be Sour show with Max Tuning and his friends.
I love Max.
Yeah. So that's the only one I watch. But all the other ones I listen to, it's usually just on the go.
Just like listening.
Just listening.
Yeah. I honestly, it's funny because I love podcasting, but I don't really watch or listen to many podcasts.
Oh, really?
I don't.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Is that hypocritical of me?
No. I thought for some reason I thought maybe you had like some go-to. Oh no, dude, Bobby Bones show.
Yeah, Bobby Bones. I used to listen to all the time, but now that my commute is like 10, 15 minutes, I just listen to music or I watch a sermon or something.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, so no, I don't do a whole lot. Yeah, I think watching. I mean, like I would, if I had time, I would sit down and watch a podcast. Like Max Tuning, I find him to be interesting.
Yeah,
so I'd watch him.
He's entertaining too.
Yeah, he's entertaining. I saw his Instagram story earlier.
What did it say?
It was about his it was about his pool cleaner. I guess he got a pool cleaning machine, and he's like, "You're gonna grind all day long, no PTO, no HR, you just grind."
The robot one.
Yeah, the robot one. He's so funny. I like that guy. But this is number 37. And I started, like I said earlier, I've been working on another podcast, and I think Sahaj was getting kind of
jealous. How do you say in Spanish? Celoso. Yeah, this man's like, hey, by the way, I'm working on another podcast. Me and two other friends, and I'm just like, okay. I was like, what about the one that we've been doing for a while? And so I got offended. I got jealous. I was like, hey, what about this stuff that we've been doing? Oh, yeah, we just need to sit down and talk about it. And I'm just like, okay. And then so here we are. We've talked about it, and we're going to continue to work on it. So I guess Tony's adding a total of 2 podcasts to his plate. And I got to give it to Tony because Tony does all the editing and all that stuff. So it's a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
But I felt betrayed, offended, a little jealous that his other friends became a priority all of a sudden. But I'm happy to say that we're back.
I am busy working. And the other podcast is more, I think here we talk about more politics. Over there we have no politics for whatsoever.
It's completely different.
No politicals, yeah.
Good.
By the way, I was waiting for us to record this podcast to finally take this thing off right here.
Oh, yeah? Wait, have you not used this before?
I've used it, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I've never taken this off. I'm like, the time I'm going to take this little protective sleeve off thing so I can start getting my fingerprints all over that board. But yeah, this is the new Rodecaster Pro 2. I don't know if it's new to the world, but it's new to me. And I'm loving this thing so far, man. It's awesome. So
yeah,
it's sick.
The sound quality and everything's different. And then I'm gonna get the camera that Watson recommended with the Rode mic.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna have to get a brand new computer because the Premiere Pro and all that stuff is not gonna work on mine.
Yeah,
so.
I'm learning Premiere Pro. I'm learning all these things. I mean, ultimately, like I told my other friends, I want to run my own business someday. Businesses. I want to invest in real estate. I want to probably invest in restaurants as well.
Mm-hmm.
I want to have a big hotel. It's going to be called the Gallo Hotel. And Gaylord? No, they already have the Gaylord. I can't do that. So, yeah, dude, that's kind of where I'm like, and I think podcasting, coming on here and just sharing our ideas and hopefully being entertaining and hopefully relating to people. Hopefully that's a springboard to me just kind of being my own entrepreneur. That's my goal in life. So yeah.
And I want to grow a YouTube channel and I want to help grow this thing. So that way it's be a full-time ordeal eventually. By the way, I've increased in YouTube subscribers even though I haven't posted a video in like a month or two.
Really?
Now. Yeah, dude. It went up by 4.
Nice.
Yeah.
You don't post regularly, do you?
No, because I used to film with this iPhone, but then I destroyed the front camera now and the back camera. So now I have to buy an actual camera with the proper setup, and then I want to do what like our buddy Watson's doing, And what you're doing is like,
Shout out, Watson.
yeah, shout out to Watson, is using Premiere Pro and making it a lot more theatrical, but and more professional. Because I have the time for it, but I need to put in the money and stop being,
Yeah. And Premiere Pro, for those who are influencers out there and have used it, man, it is such a great tool, but it's a tough thing to master. But it's such a great tool when you get to like you understanding, I'm sure. And there's so many more things I need to learn from using it. But like right now, it's just basic stuff that we're doing just for the podcast. Eventually, I may get into vlogging. I'm not sure. But right now, I really want to focus on podcasting more than anything. So let's get on with it. We talk about politics here sometimes.
We're going to get into it.
I'm a political science major. I love politics. Unfortunately, though, I haven't have time to be looking at a lot of politics. You know what I'm saying? So I almost did my Barack Obama impression there.
I kind of heard it coming out.
Yeah, you heard it? Yeah, I do a very good Barack Obama impression. How are you? It's good to see you. Anyway, but I think there's a lot going on. The tariffs are going on. Do you feel like you've been personally impacted by the Trump tariffs?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't think so. But I also don't run a business.
There's a lot of talk about it.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, like, take it. So there's been a lot of complaints, and my parents, I can actually empathize from my parents' side. It's like, dude, over here, like, if we buy eggs and stuff like that, it's not $8-10. I feel like it's normal priced.
I haven't bought eggs in a while, to be honest with you.
I pay attention to them because I do go to Costco and all that.
Yeah,
I feel like gas prices are kind of like stabilized, nothing out of the blue. But my parents told me that in Florida, it's all their stuff has 2x'd. So eggs are actually $8 to $10 there now and stuff like that. So I guess in Texas we're kind of safe, but tariffs wise, I don't run a business, so I'm not really affected by increased costs and like goods and materials that come from overseas. But like Christian Guzman, some of the guys that we listen to, like they have stated that they've been affected by it, and they've actually found ways to kind of go around it but they are passing the cost onto the consumer. So I don't know.
And I think, I mean, I the whole passing the cost onto the consumer, that also happens when, and I'm going to bring up higher wages, because higher wages is something that a lot of Democratic states have argued, like California, for example, right? They want to like the minimum wage to be $15, and I think it should be high. I think the socially acceptable minimum wage nowadays is probably like $18-19 an hour, right?
Should be. It should be.
But I think when government comes in and tries to, I'm all for higher wages. I don't like government coming in and like saying you must raise your wages up here or whatever. I think it should be up to the people. No one's going to work for $7.25 an hour. I don't think so. No. It's not socially acceptable now. No one's going to do that. And maybe someone, I don't know. Who knows? But because when government imposes us too, they're just, big companies are going to just go ahead and raise their prices, like past the cost of higher wages. The cost of labor now is going to be passed down to the consumer as well.
Right. So
I say that to say that there's a lot of avenues in which costs just go down to the consumer. And I guess tariffs, I haven't done enough research, but if there's countries that are charging us a lot of money or a certain percentage to import our stuff into their countries, and we don't do that to them, then I understand the whole going to on a war in relation to tariffs with them,
Yeah, and since we haven't filmed since the tariff liberation days, what Trump called it was April 2nd. There's a list of countries.
I haven't heard that term.
Yeah, so this is so these are the percent tariffs adjusted to each country. And I'll just go over some of the bigger ones. Bangladesh, I know a lot of manufacturing, a lot of material comes from there. 37% tariff. China, 34%. India, 26%. And then we also tend to get clothing and stuff like that. Notice from like Taiwan, that's at 32%. And Syria is at 41%. Wow. Oh, wow. Syria got a Vietnam, 46%. But now, so that was come Liberation Day and stuff like that. These are the adjusted tariffs. But then since then, Trump has actually paused the tariffs for 90 days. And it sounds like we're in the middle of that pause right now. And today, or well, this week, Trump specifically stated in an interview saying, I would buy stocks right now, essentially saying stocks will soar. And what happens is China and the United States are in talks, actually talking this tariff thing through, because what felt like China and the U.S. were going to go into like this little tariff war. They're actually meeting in Geneva, Switzerland right now and trying to come to some type of a agreement on tariffs. So there's work being done for the U.S. and China to come to an agreement. So before that, Trump had stated this week, but I would buy stocks now, and this is a good time to buy stocks now. So
Yeah.
we're hoping that the U.S. and China come to an agreement on tariffs, because last thing we want is like a tariff war.
Well, he keeps saying China is hurting as well. So
Yeah,
there's that.
which they are.
And tariffs, from my understanding, is not something really that that is kind of only like a middle, for the lack of a better term, the middle finger to like China or something. But more so, I think it's like an encouragement for U.S. companies and big companies, major corporate companies, to build their products here in the United States, because they're building the products in China and Bangladesh and Mexico to save on labor. And I feel like the president wants to encourage those companies to come build their products here in the United States of America. And I mean, manufacturing, I guess like there's just not a whole lot of it that has, ever since I guess what do they call it, the digital boom, the .com boom.
.com, yeah.
There just hasn't been a whole lot of manufacturing like there used to be in America. We don't, but you know what? And I think there should be more manufacturing, because it's gonna 40, 50 years from now, we're not going to know how to build anything anymore.
Right.
You know, we're not going to know how to make a T-shirt anymore. These basic things that we kind of contract out, if you will, to other countries for cheaper labor, and we're not going to know what to do anymore. So, yeah, the tariffs, I think, are hurting big U.S. companies, major U.S. companies, maybe some small businesses as well. But I'm not a small, I mean, I have a podcast, right? Besides that, I'm not like a small business owner or anything, but I imagine most small business also kind of do their in-house manufacturing, you know?
Yeah.
So where does do you know where Max Tuning gets his candy manufactured? Is it Spain?
Yeah, it was Spain.
Okay.
And and he's also running into, RFK banned the dyes.
Oh, okay.
So now he's running into how
tariff and
dyes. So how do you make a sour candy like a watermelon flavor without it looking red, for example? And so it should be interesting the way that plays out. Right now, this is very recent. This is as of 16 minutes ago.
Breaking
news. Top U.S. officials touted substantial progress and indicated a deal may have been made with China during negotiations this weekend in Switzerland.
Yeah.
So this is good. And what's going to happen with this, my prediction is, if the United States and China come to an agreement, I think the stock market is going to wake up and soar on Monday, especially if this is done this weekend. Because what stock markets don't like, what the market doesn't like, is uncertainty. It doesn't like uncertainty. It wants certainty. And when these tariffs hit, I'm sure you guys all saw the markets take a dive, and it was a great time to buy in at that time. But now, if the U.S. does come to an agreement with China, which it's looking more and more like it is, I think the market will soar. And that also makes me, and this is not financial advice, but I also think that if you haven't been in the markets at this time, I think that you've kind of done yourself a disservice, because you can never time the bottom of a stock market, but at the end of the day, it looks like we are on an up in trend that could possibly be due to this agreement on this weekend. So who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. My portfolio has been doing okay. And I don't put a whole lot of money into, like, I have a Robinhood portfolio. I don't put a whole lot of money into it, but I always it's one of my big apps, my widgets on my iPhone. So I always kind of see how my portfolio is doing, and it's been hovering at an okay pace right now. So I guess it's not too bad right now, at least for my portfolio.
I don't think it's been too bad either. I think it did take a nosedive a little bit, but that's when you just bought it. I ended up just maxing out my entire Roth at that point. I was like, whatever. I was like, I don't know when this is going to bottom out, but right now it is taking a nosedive. So hopefully.
I feel like we were like just super, super being inflamed, and then I think we're kind of, right now I feel, and it's just my feelings, I feel like we're just kind of stable. Like we're just kind of floating right now,
Yeah.
I think we were like so up, and now it's just like, okay, now we're just kind of floating. But I mean, the cost of living went way up.
Yeah.
The grocery prices were up.
Well,
and wages stayed relatively the same.
Yeah.
But that's been, I think our generation. It's a tough thing to buy a house, but we can do it. We're not gonna play victim. We're gonna do it, no matter what.
Well, I don't think wages have ever kept up with inflation, and I think that's the sad part. Is that if you are on a strict salary and you see inflation creeping up, well, there is no opportunity really for you to work more and make more, right? So what happens is I feel like wages will never keep up with inflation. But if you are working like an hourly job and you're not salaried and you have the opportunity to work more and kind of, build up your, work a little extra, I think that's always a good bet. I think I'm an hourly worker, so I work a ton of overtime, and I can really appreciate that because, my set, salary, whatever you want to say, is not going to keep with inflation, but I can put in a little bit more time at work and kind of offset the discrepancy there. Make a little bit more money.
Yeah. There's also a lot of, with the Trump administration, a lot of immigration stuff going on.
Oof.
Lots of it.
Oof. They're coming for us.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
We're U.S. citizens. But yeah, how do you feel about the immigration stuff? What do you have to say? There's a lot. I know there's a lot to unpack there.
There's so much to unpack there, but I do like what the administration's doing on immigration. I love that was a promise Trump had made, and right as he started, he went right into it, and he let the reins loose on immigration's customs enforcement and the borders are Tom Homan. I think to their credit, they've been doing great work. I was actually kind of surprised that ICE didn't necessarily meet a lot of resistance when taking some of these people into custody. But then again, these were obviously targeted operations, and no one really knows when they're coming. But lately, bro, in the media, I've been seeing that ICE operations, they've been starting to be met with resistance. Like there was an incident in Massachusetts yesterday, maybe the day before. They were trying to take a mother into custody, and what happened was the entire community, like the street, came out and got in the way of the ICE investigation and was holding the mom back and was essentially fighting back with ICE. And then ICE had to put out an assist, and the local police came. And ICE ended up taking the mother, but then they ended up arresting a couple others. So like now I feel like they're starting to be met with some type of resistance. So, but overall, I really like the fact that they're getting these crazy criminals off the street. Like it's insane to think that some of these people have been living amongst us. Like you would never think, but they've been out and about, and their locations have been known, and they've just been, set free to wander the streets with your children, and you're like, and us, but so I do like that. Should be interesting going forward on how things go.
Abrego Garcia is a
Oof.
name that you have probably already heard of. He is the Salvadorian man who was living in Maine, Massachusetts,
Maine
maybe?
or Massachusetts, one of them two.
Yeah.
It's always the East
Um,
Coast.
up there in the East Coast, and he was deported by ICE.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? What do you know? How do you feel?
Abrego Garcia.
Abrego Garcia. I'll tell. I guess I'll give you my opinion on that. And to touch on the I do want to say one thing about the narrative, because I come from immigrant parents. You come from immigrant parents as well.
See.
So and I was in law enforcement. You're currently in law enforcement. So we understand kind of like
I'm a mall cop. Yeah, go ahead.
we're like, I don't know. I feel like we get both sides, right?
Oh, yeah.
We get the sympathy of immigrants who come to this country and work hard,
Right.
and then we
Right.
also see the law enforcement side, and we see that not everyone who comes here from another country is here to do good and better themselves and better the society.
Right.
But I want to just kind of speak on the narrative of like, because I feel like the media sometimes wants to make it seem like they're just going after undocumented people who are innocent and have no criminal record, just like your normal, like everyday, sane, undocumented individual.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the case, in my opinion.
Right.
I haven't seen it. I don't think that's the case. And coming from someone with law enforcement experience,
Right.
the federal government is not going to have the information of all undocumented immigrants. They're undocumented. You know what that means? They're undocumented. There's no documents. There's no paper trail to really track the
Right.
undocumented immigrants. So they don't have, addresses or anything like that. The people that are on their radar for a reason.
Right.
And if you're on the federal government's radar, it's probably not a good reason.
Right.
So if they're going after someone in your neighborhood or in your community, it's probably because they're on the federal government's radar, So I think we really need to kind of talk about that narrative and the narrative of, they're just going after any undocumented person and sending them to the prison in El Salvador. That's just not the narrative. Or they're going into churches and just like rounding up people. That's not what's happening whatsoever. And I think that there's just a lot of fear, and we
Right.
talked about this, I think a couple episodes back. There's just a lot of fear whenever we set that kind of narrative. And I'm all for getting people who have been convicted, even if they were convicted, they haven't been convicted of crimes here in the United States of America, but they have a conviction back at home, a murder conviction back at home,
Right.
and somehow they ended up in the United States of America, and they're on the federal government's radar. I'm all for getting that person out. Why not?
Right.
Why not? And honestly, if I'm not saying people can't change, I'm not saying a murderer can't change, but if you murdered someone back in your home country and then you came to the United States, you're undocumented, and somehow you ended up on the federal government's radar, I don't know if you're up to philanthropical work.
Right.
But there is a side of me as well that wants to give grace, and I think the government and I hope the administration gives grace and sympathizes with the people who have been here the most. I do want to play this clip real quick because another big thing is dreamers.
Uh-huh.
I know I've got close friends who are part of the DACA program and a deferred action program, and have been able to get documented here in the United States in some sort of a way, like getting driver's license, a social security number, be able to work, be able to apply for credit, and I think that's great. And here's Donald Trump on on Dreamers. Let's see if we can play this audio here. Last time I tried to do this, it wasn't working, but let's see. Because this part of the immigration narrative, I just don't think this part gets played enough, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it should be. I think it should we should showcase that, like, hopefully, because it brings, like, hopefully the administration has some sort of grace for some within the immigration population, undocumented population. So here's Donald Trump on Dreamers.
Spoke in December. You said that you would consider working on getting Dreamers legal status. Dreamers, of course, those who are brought here illegally as children. Where do those efforts stand? Is that a priority for you?
Well, it's not a priority for the Democrats because every time we talk about it, they don't want to talk about it because I guess they like it as a political issue, but they're not good at political issues because they still want to have men playing women's sports.
Well, Republicans do control Congress right now, Mr. President.
But the
Are you
Democrats
going
don't.
to make Dreamers a priority?
Well, you need for that, you would need to have support from Democrats, and we have no support from the Democrats.
Have you had any discussions about Dreamers?
Yeah, we've had discussions. We would do something. I'd love to put in beautiful immigration for everybody, but the Democrats don't want to approve anything. All they want to do is knock out a tax bill. We're trying to get.
Last time you and I spoke in December.
So there's Donald Trump talking about, our camera was kind of went away for a second, talking about Dreamers there. And you see, like, him saying that, yeah, we want to work with Democrats on this issue, but of course they don't. I think they need supermajority to kind of pass something to help out the Dreamers. And what I would say is there's a lot of protests out there. I'd say use that energy to talk to your Democratic representatives and say, hey, the president said he would work with you guys on getting Dreamers some sort of pathway to citizenship, you know, and not just through that executive order that initiated the DACA program. And I'd say, work with him. Work with him.
Right.
Work with him. Call your Democratic senator and representative and say, work with the president. He says he wants to work with you on this. Let's work on it, you know? Let's get it passed through Congress, something that actually is going to stick, you know?
So here's my problem with, like, new age Democrats nowadays. And the fact that you heard President Trump wanting to work with Dreamers, I think that's a huge thing. How many times have we been on patrol back in the day and we've stopped an individual for a traffic violation and it was just a mom with laundry going to the local lavanderia to do, and she didn't have ID and stuff like that. That mom is not committing homicides out there, you know, in our city. That mom is just trying to get laundry done. But the thing is, she's probably been here for an X amount of time, probably has a family, probably has raised kids here. And the sad part is they deserve citizenship, and they, in fact, are law-abiding citizens, law-abiding, I guess you could say law-abiding undocumented people that live in the U.S. But at the end of the day, all of a sudden, things turn to be some type of a political issue, and agreements can't be made because one side has more pride than the other, whatever it is. And I think he's right. I do genuinely feel like sometimes the Democrats go out of their way to extend these issues for a longer time to make a political statement. That's the new age Democrats. I think that, wasn't it President Obama that started DACA?
Yeah, he did.
Right.
An executive order.
Right. So look at that. He wanted to find a way to work with immigrants and to, you know, find some type of solution where they got ID identification, stuff like that. Great job. I also think that President Trump wants to build upon that and work with the Dreamers and as what quote unquote Dreamers. And I think that that's an amazing job. I think I don't understand how is it that the Democrats can continuously complain about the arrests of undocumented people, But then when you have the president saying that he's willing to work on that, he just needs the Democratic Party to agree. It's very frustrating because I feel like the Democrats just want to act on emotion and just want to stir up this like anti-Trump rhetoric. It sounds like this is more so, to me, it sounds like this is a lot of anti-Trump stuff going on. It's not more so like maybe if there's another guy in office that wasn't Trump, maybe they wouldn't have such a, emotional way to go about their means. But I do think, dude, the New Age Democrats are such they're so emotional and they're so just negative. Like they're just so negative. Like if you guys want to work on the immigration thing, you got a president who's saying he's willing to work with it. You have to work with him. My God, how hard is it?
Yeah.
You and I have seen firsthand the people, good law-abiding people who deserve citizenship, who've been here for 10, 20, 30 years, they deserve it. That's not, but no, let's, throw up a fit and protest and take over the bridges and all that, protesting what ICE is doing, getting a rapist off the streets. It's like, okay, all right, this is very unproductive.
Yeah. And I think it's both parties. I'm not going to just blame the Democrats. I'm saying right now the Democrats should use this kind of will from the president and say, all right, if you're willing to work with us, let's step up and let's actually do something. But both parties, Republicans and Democrats, have failed the immigration population. And that's just that. Both parties have. And so that's how I feel about it. Our camera keeps having issues, bro, and it's bothering me.
Oh, wow. Audio-visual issues. Did it die?
Yeah, we're using a GoPro to record, and no, it didn't die, but it just keeps on stopping.
Oh, isn't
I have to start it every time. Well, and it's not, once it did it, and it just rolled through the entire thing with no issues, and when I was recording once, but yeah, this is why I don't like this GoPro, honestly. But it has 64% battery, and it's just not working with us. So, let's go ahead. I'm going to try to find a solution here. Let's take a little break, and then we'll be back with more after I figure this technological issues out. Okay.
AV issues.
We'll be back.
A podcast unlike any other. You're listening to The Tony Gallo Show.
All right, we got the camera back up and rolling here. It's a little, can you bring it down?
Yeah.
Let's see, like, you see how, like, it's pointing up? Let's see if it comes down. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with
See
this
how I
camera.
look in that. I didn't know you could see that. Oh, I hate the way I look.
Why? Why?
I just hate it.
Why?
I just feel small in that. Speaking of small, Sahaj is on.
Oh. that turned real quick right there. What are you on?
Yeah, so we've been talking a lot about politics and all this stuff, whatever, right? It's all fun and negative and Nancy, whatever. But
it is kind of negative.
It's kind of negative, But guys, just want to let you guys know that I'm making an announcement that I am on
Before
TRT. I just said it. I just went all in, dude.
We should probably... Yeah, never mind.
I have a prescription for it. So at the end of the day, I'm not doing anything wrong. But let me talk to you guys why, let's get into why real quick. All right, guys. So like over the past few years, I've always been feeling the same consistent mental fog, excess body fat storage, essentially the inability to put on muscle no matter how hard I train, diet, etc. And over the span of 2 years, I would get my testosterone levels checked because I genuinely felt like it was a combination of stress, terrible sleep due to work schedule, especially when we were on patrol, stuff like that. And year over year, it was on a decline. And every single doctor and nurse practitioner I've ever freaking saw was like, you're fine. It's okay. Like our clinic we don't believe in prescribing TRT to someone who's like 28 years old or whatever. And so I was just left without many answers, but I did know that since my testosterone was year over year on a decline, that something had to be done. I did the ashwagandha, did all that stuff, and unfortunately, like it just wouldn't budge. And maybe there's more I could have done naturally. Maybe there really is more I could have done naturally. But at the end of the day, I was running into a wall, and I was getting very, very frustrated. So eventually I was able to get a prescription for TRT, and I started on it. And it's crazy. Just to let you guys know how much, like, I don't know if it may have been something internal going on with me, maybe something metabolic, maybe something with my hormones or whatever. But I started on TRT. I was on it for a good amount of time. I would say maybe like 6 months, 8 months. And you have to get your blood drawn and get your levels checked and make sure that you don't have too much red blood cells. Otherwise, you have to give blood and all this stuff, right? The doctor drew my blood after like 6 months on TRT, and he's like, your levels still haven't gone up that much. He's like, your levels should have significantly gone up.
Do you want to talk about what your levels were at, or where your levels were at before you got on, and like during, and maybe like during the update?
Yeah. So when I first when I was going through my low T periods, it was in the low 400s. And then after I got on testosterone, like maybe 6 months later, it had barely hit 500. The doctor was like, you should be at least 800, at least for now. So then what happened was, I haven't got my blood done recently, so I'm not really sure where I'm at now, but I've noticed significant effects, like positive effects in my body. I sleep better. I recover faster. I've built more muscle. I have the stubborn body fat and the mental fog. The mental fog was killing me. Like internally, I would just forget things. It's definitely been mitigated. And overall, I feel like I'm 31 years old. I literally feel like I'm like 25 years old. I feel like I'm in my mid 20s right now. I feel great. I haven't had any side effects. No back knee, no loss of hair, no voice related things. I haven't seen any gynecomastia. Gynecomastia is basically is when you end up getting titties, like freaking girl titties. I haven't seen any of that. And so I think my body's responding very well to it. I'm curious to see my next blood draw where I'm at, which I'll obviously update y'all, but it's been transformative. And I think what's happening nowadays is we're seeing more and more TRT clinics come up because men nowadays have significantly lower testosterone than back in the 70s and 80s. It's because of all the bullshit we're exposed to, plastics, dyes, all these things affect that you go through in your everyday life. Like this right here, this is a freaking water bottle. Like drinking out of this water bottle compared to drinking out of what Tony's drinking out of is far more superior than drinking out of something plastic. This is just freaking convenient for me. But I say that to say we're exposed to so much carcinogens in our daily life that, believe it or not, it affects your testosterone levels. And science has shown, studies have shown that this day and age, our generation of males have had significantly lower testosterone than back in our parents' times. And so there is definitely more and more clinics coming up. I think the stereotype of testosterone, the negative rhetoric, is being completely demolished by science. And I think it's funny that the FDA had labeled testosterone as like a black label, medicine, but you're seeing more and more positive studies come out about the effects of testosterone. And I guess that kind of goes to show that, like, you know, like not everything you hear on testosterone is true. In fact, the majority of it is false when it comes to negative rhetoric. I think if you're taking it in unusually high doses, such as bodybuilders, yeah, you should stop doing that shit because that's going to hurt you. But if you're doing it under the care and the practice of a medical professional, you're getting regular labs done, it's only going to benefit you if you have low testosterone. So yeah.
Yeah. And also for anyone who's thinking about getting on TRT,
as I drink out of a plastic bottle.
And I also drink out of plastic bottles. Not too regularly now. Not because I'm afraid of the health stuff, honestly. I'll be honest, I didn't do it because of that. I just find it more convenient to put it in a big water bottle
Stanley.
instead of having to like refill it every time. Plus, I just happen to drink. I just find myself drinking more water if I drink out of here because I'm like trying to finish it up and then I like go and refill. So what like when I was thinking about getting on TRT, because in law enforcement it's a big thing. You law enforcement guys, you know it. You know
Firefighters.
You know what I'm talking
Firefighters.
about. You know who you are. And I did get on. I did get on it for a little bit. And I'll talk about my experience with it for a bit. But just for you're not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. But I always came in. I was like, okay, so let me go get my testosterone levels checked, right? And then I thought to myself, at what point would I get on testosterone? Like, what would my levels have to be for me to be convinced that I need to be on testosterone? Did you have that question in mind when you got on it?
Yes, I did. However, the levels don't typically dictate how. Sometimes your level may be 500-600, but you could be feeling like absolute dog crap, and that could still. There's still discrepancy there. So I did think about that, but I also more so thought about how I was feeling on a day-to-day basis.
And
my side effects.
To argue that point, though, the side effects, how you're feeling, if you're feeling like brain fog or whatever, that could be for a variety of other reasons, though.
Sure. Lack of sleep.
Yeah. Lack of water. You're not eating the right foods. You're maybe in a caloric surplus every single day, and it's causing like and it's not a good bulk, right?
Right.
The foods you're putting in your body. So there could be a variety of reasons as to why. To argue that point. So, but for you, it wasn't a level. It was just how you were feeling.
Yeah, it was how I was feeling, but it turns out for me, my levels correlated with how I was feeling, because when I went to the doctor told me, he's like, for a 20-year-old healthy male with his labs fairly decent minus a little bit of cholesterol, he's like, there's no way you shouldn't be in the 800s to 900s.
Yeah.
So it correlated for me, but
and that's some doctors feel like that, and some doctors are like, you're good at 400, 500.
I'll be like, Doc, I can barely get an erection. I can barely rub one out, you know. And they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it.
Nobody wants.
No
to
one
hear
wants
that.
to hear it. But you're
No
a
one
doctor.
wants
You
to
should
hear
want to
that.
hear it. But Doc, I can barely get it up. Doc, I just
I don't know.
Doc, like feel like my cock is gonna fall off. Like I don't know.
Okay.
So I say that to say that I'm a new aged man now.
I think that I also got on it for maybe 6 months or so. And I didn't like it. For me. I just felt like I was feeling too bulky, too like, ugh. But I also wasn't really watching what I was eating at the time. But my testosterone levels did shoot up. I mean, my testosterone levels were also like in the 400s. And we had a doctor who's
That's crazy.
Pretty aggressive doctor with testosterone. And he does believe that men our age should be 800 plus. And I went to go get tested again, and while being on testosterone, my testosterone levels came back at about 1,000 or something. It was insane.
Yeah, like you're like the horniest guy I know. And
what?
Yeah, and so like when you said that you were in the 400s, and for me it's like I can barely get it up. It just kind of.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't want to put your stuff out there, but I don't know about that.
Okay, so let me break it down. Let me
just put some stuff out. I don't want to say too much, but
I'm not going to say too much. I'm going to generalize.
But you do things all day long, and I say, how many times do you do things? And you say several times. I say, and then you say you're not the. I say, I don't know about that. I don't know about that one.
Okay, so look, to think that you were at the same levels as I was, but I feel like you and I were feeling a lot different. Maybe a stress related.
It could be a variety of reasons as to why, but yeah, I mean.
Yeah, so like that just kind of goes to show the discrepancy in levels. Like you can have an individual like Tony, essentially the same levels as me, but he's not feeling the same side effects as I'm feeling. He's not feeling the same. And to his point, it could be a multitude of things that contribute to those side effects.
Yeah.
But it's crazy to see, like, we were at the same levels. He felt some type of way being on it, and I feel amazing being on it. I will say that testosterone leads to higher water retention, so there's that. So you
Do you
will,
think that's why I was feeling a little?
yeah, but bro, you said it right there. You weren't necessarily tracking where you weren't
I wasn't
eating your
yeah,
best.
I wasn't eating my
which
best.
an excess intake of carbohydrates also leads to water retention too. So now you
Yeah.
got TRT, you got water retention. Maybe if you take creatine,
But
get that.
I will say that like I got a body scan and I was in the 160s at this time. Like I was 164, I think, when I started TRT. And then I went up to like 167. I got body scan at 164 and then 167. Basically what I'm trying to say, in between those two body scans, I gained like 4 pounds of straight muscle according to my body scan.
Like after you got off it?
During TRT.
Oh shit, yeah, I'm sure
yeah,
you did.
like 4 pounds of muscle.
Yeah.
And now it's super hard for me to gain, like actually gain muscle. Like, but I've been cutting since December 1st, which I've almost lost 20 pounds. But and
Do the
that's
clap.
just like
Do the clap.
clap,
thing.
clap.
That shit.
Yeah.
There you
Almost
go.
20 pounds. I'm at 147. I was 166 at the end of last year. So I think that by the way came through like just staying at a deficit, and I hired a coach.
Yeah.
I hired Luke Holbrook, and he was fantastic. Shout out to Luke and his brother Seth Holbrook. I mean, two great guys, amazing
Man, they
guys.
look so good.
I wish they do look good.
I mean, like, you know,
No,
like
just the way you
objectively
said it.
speaking, they look so like.
Oh man, they look so good.
All right, I'm gonna stop.
Yeah, you should probably stop while you're ahead. But no, they do look good, and I really liked working with them. But I couldn't continue to afford that. It's just it gets expensive. And you know, I think that for me being on it, I just felt heavier. I felt like more, you know. But I wasn't tracking, and then I went back to the doctor. And I said, hey, let's check my TRT levels. Let's check my testosterone levels again.
Right.
Not too long, maybe at the beginning of the year. I said, let's check my testosterone levels again. And we checked them. And I was like in the mid 500s maybe. And it was enough for me to be like, I don't need to be on it. I'm okay. Let me just continue to naturally stay on it. Eat broccoli, my ashwagandha every morning, you know?
Yeah.
Because
Sleep.
I don't like, you know, the less stuff I can put into my body that isn't natural, the better, I think, for me. But
now,
you
if
know,
I'm gonna play devil's advocate with you,
I'm
got,
not natty. I'm
you
pro
got-
natty.
You got enough pills that a goddamn 75-year-old person takes over.
Okay,
there.
they're vitamins, bro.
So here's
First
my
of
thing.
all,
So
they're
here's my thing.
vitamins.
We can argue one way or the other, and I love disagreeing with Tony. Sometimes I do it intentionally, honestly. But I will say it's like,
Because he's toxic.
but no, Tony's right. Like I guess there was no, and the thing is, like, he's already lost significant amounts of weight, and he's going to continue to do his thing.
Right.
So, but that
And then
coach,
I'll gain muscle eventually.
right? Which I would argue you are gaining muscle right now.
Yeah.
it's just maybe hidden.
Yeah,
but you're
yeah.
still gaining it, right?
Oh, by another shout out, Coach Corey Perkins. Perkins, I think is his last name.
Yeah, he's not as good looking as Seth and Luke Holbrook, honestly.
Really? I like
Yeah,
him.
I think
I think they're all good looking. You're all great looking guys.
you guys are all jacked.
You're all
you
great
guys are so
looking
jacked.
guys.
And you know what? Me, straight man, I'm allowed to say, objectively speaking, that I do believe that
Me.
naturally,
Gay man. What? Where are you going with that?
naturally, Seth and Luke Holbrook are really good looking natural guys. But I think it's genetics that also play a role in that, though. Aside from them being skilled,
Gay guy. That was kind of gay. I'm just kidding.
he's gay as hell.
All right.
But he alleges anyway.
Yeah, don't even go.
Yeah,
Don't
right,
even
right.
go
But
there.
anyways, I think they're great coaches to hire. Like
No,
that's
they're great.
You
They're
were
great.
like,
Fantastic.
and I will say Tony was as dialed in as I've ever seen him under the care, custody, and control of his two coaches. It's a legal reference if you guys don't get it. But anyway, but yeah, badass thing. And I almost want to hire a coach too. But then I think about like, man, like, can I commit? The thing is, Tony can speak to it, but these coaches are not cheap. If you're going to hire these coaches, you have to be able to be disciplined, dialed in, and execute. Otherwise, you're just wasting your freaking money. And I think to myself, Sahaj, will you be disciplined, dialed in, and not waste your money? The answer is, I don't know. That means I'm probably not in a position to hire a coach.
Yeah.
But one day I do want to experience that accountability that you experience.
I think and one day I'd probably go back to coaching. I mean, having a coach in any kind of aspect of where you're trying to grow, I think is a great idea.
Sure.
If you have the resource for it. I certainly didn't, but it's gonna be worth it. I'm just investing in myself every day. I invest in myself.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so the thing that for me was the accountability, and of course the guidance. I mean, truly understanding. Like, you can throw around the word caloric deficit every single day. You got to be in a caloric deficit.
Right.
You can understand calories and how they work. You can understand macros and how they work. But if you're not actually implementing what you're learning, then how do you expect to kind of make any sort of progress,
Bro, that's the biggest thing. Because how many times have you guys gone to a gym, seen a fat ass personal trainer? Like, not to be rude.
That was kind of rude.
But it's kind of rude.
Came off.
But look, the irony is that you're a personal trainer. You know so much about the mobility, the metabolic, and all sorts of other things, calories in, calories out. But you're unable to implement that to yourself. And the irony is you're implementing it to your clients. And I think the biggest thing is, like, personally for me, is like, if you're going to hire a coach, you want someone who kind of speaks the word, who walks the walk. Because it's very easy for me to tell someone, hey, drop the calories by 400, you know what I mean? Let's go to full body workouts or whatever, do X, Y, Z. But if I'm not implementing it, then I almost kind of feel hypocritical that I'm making a client do it, or let alone the client's paying me for that. So Luke and Seth Holbrook they're solid. They're solid. Commercial gym trainers, I will say this, find a way to, vet them in and out, because I think a lot of them are in it for the commissions and just the money associated with it. But if you can find,
not all of them though, right?
Not all of them, but
it's not just speak. It's not just throw stuff out there.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, bro. When I went to Export Fitness, LA Fitness, and some of the gyms around here, like, I would look at the trainers and I would be like, why? Like, it doesn't make any sense why you're having your client do that. But what the hell do I know? But I do quickly want to say something. If you're gonna hire a trainer and the first thing they make you do is have high intensity workouts, fire them immediately, because it's not sustainable. That type of caloric deficit or caloric burn is not sustainable. But if they do kind of what they did to Tony, methodical caloric cuts, and then also programming in these workouts and stuff like that, then that sounds like a very sustainable way. And as you can tell, Tony hasn't been with the coaches for a little bit now, and he still has maintained the level of. Would you say that you've maintained
100%?
Yeah,
100%.
exactly.
Because I know I've gotten even better now. I've been more committed. I mean, for the
He's
last.
just showing off now, bro.
Excuse me.
Damn.
Excuse me. For the last 2 weeks, I mean, I've been under 1,600, and I stuck to that. I mean, like, stuck to that. I've been now I do have a trip coming up, and I was like, well,
That's
okay.
fine.
But like, I use that as momentum, and just kind of keep going. And I understand what I'm doing. Like, I really have to stay under 1,600 calories a day. And it sucks, and it's tough, and it's boring.
Sounds
and,
hard.
Like, at the end of the day, you're like, man, I really want a protein bar. I really want that. But all you have is 10 calories left. And no, baby, you can't do it, because you can't do it. So, yeah, it's a tough thing to do, but it's worth it. I mean, and one of the things for me that I've recently learned is, like, when it gets tough, like, truly lean into trusting the process. Like, trust the process. Like, because for me, when it gets tough, I like quit in my head. Inside my head, like, I subconsciously, some weird thing happens where I just give up in my head. Where I'm like, in my head, I'm like, why the hell wouldn't you have that? Because you're not even gonna get to your goal weight. So why wouldn't you just kind of like have that snack or have ice cream or have whatever? That's what's going on subconsciously, I think, in my head. And I have to, like, recently I've had to fight that with just saying to myself, no, I'm going to trust this process. Tomorrow I may not wake up 2 pounds down, but that's not part of the process. That's not how it works,
Right.
I trust the slowness, and that's what's been working for me. And I'm gonna continue to work on my journey, and it's always been balanced. By the way, on Luke and Seth, when I started working with Luke Holbrook, and he told me he was gonna bring his brother. He and his brother kind of like tag team this thing, and I was a bit skeptical about it because I didn't know Seth. I never,
It's a tag team.
Okay. So but I'm gonna say Seth is the nicest guy ever, and I love that guy. I like him better than Luke. I'm just kidding, Luke. I like you. I really like Seth. I really do like him. They're both fantastic, and he's so smart. And I feel like I connected really well with him.
It
And
sounds
Luke
like you have
as
a
well.
crush on him, is what you're.
I have a crush on both of you. There, I said it. No, I'm just kidding. No, I do love those guys, and I hope one day I can go and work with them again. You know, because I'm sure there's going to be other fitness adventures I'm gonna want to go on. So I hope I can do that. So yeah, there's that. What else? Is there anything else that we need to touch on? Anything else we need to touch on?
I don't think so. I think we've covered a lot. I think we've went into the negative Nancy politics, and then we went into.
I forget. Listen, I'm gonna be completely honest with y'all.
Don't lie to us now.
I forget why I sometimes don't want to talk about politics, and then we spent like 40 minutes on politics. Like the last 20 minutes of the show, which I thought were the better 20 minutes of the show.
Yeah, it's fun. That's fun.
Like I forget why I don't talk about politics. Like why it gets so negative.
I'll
Like,
play
I don't
devil's
like-
advocate with you.
What?
So you're right. It doesn't get negative. But you and I banter about politics. We send
We
things
do.
to each other on Instagram. We talk about it when we're hanging out. And
We do.
what more of a better way to inform the people that are listening to the show our opinions and why they shouldn't just succumb to the media's narrative. You're right. It is. I think it's negative too. But I mean, it's not like we're going to talk about like freaking weight loss and like, oh yeah, when, you know, I like freaking did this and XYZ thing all day long. It's like, I feel like talking about politics, though it can be negative, unfortunately. I mean, fortunately, I would say this day and time, our generation has gotten a lot more into voting, and I think it's imperative. I think in order for us to uphold I'm very extremist on this. Our U.S. citizenship
Extremist.
is to inform our people that, hey, look, you know, you're hearing XYZ thing on the media, but here's our opinion on it. Here's why you shouldn't necessarily listen to what you're fed and spoon fed. And so, yeah, it could be negative, but dude, I almost feel like it's kind of essential. Like, and I was one of those guys. You remember? Tony asked me a long time ago, like, why don't you vote or whatever? It's like, because I don't care. It's not my vote matters anyway. But I've completely changed that narrative in my head, and I don't know, dude. More and more younger people are getting into politics, and I think we're doing.
I like politics.
I like politics too. I mean,
I
it
like
is what
talking
it is.
about it. The only two things. I'll be completely honest. Here. One, it's negative, and two, I think too much about what other people are gonna think of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Especially in like my role and everything, like, you know, because most of my friends do
Your
not.
friends know you as
My friends, my workplace, like they do not. I don't think they. Well, I actually know the majority of the people that probably follow me on Instagram do not think the way I think.
same here.
You know, and so I think about that a lot, but I shouldn't.
You
I
shouldn't, because here's the thing: if
Let
your
them.
friends would already switch it up on you if that was the case. And the fact they're still
Well,
here,
and
they're
and
still riding with you, and they don't judge you, and they may argue with you, but hey.
and yeah. So yeah. But I love politics, and I want to continue to talk about politics.
I swear.
Man, but people just hate Trump. You know, they
I know.
completely hate him, and I'm not saying like he's the
Let
best
the man live.
the best president in the world.
I am.
Or anything, but you know, like I don't know. History will tell. History will tell who the best president was. But like for me, and I say this every time, Barack Obama,
He was great.
inspired me to get into politics. Donald Trump kept me in. So there's that. You know?
You know, Tony, I feel like at one day he's gonna come out like a Bernie Sanders fan or whatever else, and I'm gonna be so disappointed in him. But we're still gonna keep this podcast going. We're gonna fight even more.
I mean, you can't argue that Obama wasn't cool.
Obama, he was badass, bro.
It was cool. He's the coolest
I
president.
have no problem admitting that. He was a cool ass president, and I still, till this day, remember when he got on the freaking news and announced the assassination of Osama bin Laden was like goosebump, riveling moment for me as like a freaking young kid.
And then
Badass.
Donald Trump, number one reason I like Donald Trump is because he's an action kind of guy. He's like, let's get things done. Let's get it done, and let's get it done quickly. You know, let's not
Right.
sit around with our hands underneath our thighs and just think about what we're going to do and say we're going to do all these things and not do things.
Right.
He's a let's get it done kind of man. And he changed politics. He really did change politics. So we'll see what happens in 2020. Now, I will say this. Him joking about and I haven't heard him joke, but joking about continuing on a third term and stuff. That's the stuff that bothers me.
Yeah, he's not gonna do it, bro.
No one's gonna run for a third term. And I think most voters wouldn't vote for someone. Just as Americans, I think we like change. I think we're so
I hate
like
change
in our personal lives.
in our personal lives.
But when it comes to like things like the presidency, we're like we're kind of bored. We want something different now.
Yeah.
We like to mix it up. We like the drama. We're like, let's go ahead and mix it up now.
Yeah.
Real quick, since I didn't, just real quick, India and Pakistan. Which side are you on? I'm just kidding.
I'm on the humanitarian side. Essentially, what happened was Pakistan sent some, but I don't think Pakistan sent them, but I think some extremists went into India. They murdered 26 people. Essentially, put a gun to their head, asked them, "Hey."
Sort of like the Israel-Palestine deal, right?
Bro, it's crazy. Exactly like that.
Yeah.
But anyways, 26 people were murdered. Innocent people, women and children were spared. So then India was like, "Oh hell no!" Like So India decided to take action on their own hands. Now I don't know the ins and outs of this conflict. I do know that this has been going on for a long time, like Israel and Palestine. This is over the region of Kashmir. It's called Kashmir. It's a Kashmir region. That's what they're essentially fighting over. And my take is like, I'm Indian. It is what it is. And if you're gonna come into our country and execute 26 people for no good goddamn reason, then yes, you're getting met with resistance. But I will say that it's best that we continue along this like peaceful journey, because man, I'm going to tell you something right now. I get so frustrated when freaking people take to the streets of the United States and protest by the thousands of some shit that's happening overseas. Look, as long as we can maintain peace, Israel peace, Palestine peace, India peace, Pakistan peace, let's all live in a lovely world.
Indian peace.
Yeah,
US peace.
just live.
Union
Guys,
peace.
let's coexist.
Mexico peace. Canada
I'm not
peace.
trying to freaking deal
Guatemala
with this
peace.
shit.
Venezuela peace.
Guatemala.
That could be a
Guatemala
song.
random ass.
It's the we are the world. That's gonna be our version, like our generation's version of We Are the World. It's gonna be Canada peace, US peace, Mexico peace, India peace, Palestine peace.
Next thing we'll go through like all 193 countries or whatever it is.
Peace,
Say
peace. I told Sahaj earlier this week that I am the Pope of this household, and I am preaching peace.
You
and I'm
can't
bringing
be the Pope.
Peace. Why?
And no, nothing.
Okay, yeah,
All right,
exactly.
that's all right.
Let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up. No pun intended.
We won't be here next week because I'm out of town.
Why?
I'm out of town.
Wow.
But
Just
we're
kidding.
going to be more consistent over the summer. It's summer starting, kick off the summer. And yeah.
Let's
So,
do more than 5 episodes or whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do more than 5 episodes. Thanks for joining us today. Peace. Later. Peace be with you.
A podcast unlike any other. You're listening to The Tony Gallo Show.